Have you ever noticed how when you begin to really change, the people around you start to act differently? They may not say anything openly. Instead, they hide their discomfort in jokes, in advice disguised as concern, or in awkward silence whenever you bring up something deeper. But underneath all of it, what's really happening is simple. Your mental growth threatens their comfort zone, and no one likes being pushed to see their own complacency. Maybe you're going through this right now. You've started thinking differently, acting differently, questioning things you once accepted without a second thought. And now you're feeling alone, misunderstood, even judged. What no one tells you, and what Nietzsche understood better than almost anyone, is that this is the cost of building a strong mind. Not just any kind of strength, but a strength so intense, so real that it unsettles other people. It scares them. It silently exposes the weakness of those who are still living on autopilot. Why does this happen? Because a truly powerful mind is a threat to collective mediocrity. Nietzsche was clear about this. When you decide to think for yourself, to create your own values, to abandon the comfortable illusion of ready-made truths, you become dangerous. Dangerous to the system, dangerous to others, and most of all, dangerous to your former self. This is a call, a challenge. It's not made for people who want comfort or easy answers. It's made for you, the person who's tired of being a prisoner to your own insecurities, who feels on the edge of an internal rupture, and who's ready to build something no one can destroy. A mind that no one can manipulate, a mind that terrifies because it will not bend. If you're ready for this path, a lonely, hard, but deeply transformative path, stay, because what Nietzsche teaches will confront you, but it can also free you, and after this, you'll never think the same way again. Nietzsche was not just a philosopher. He was like a surgeon of the human soul. Someone who had the courage to look straight into the abyss of existence and not just face it, but dive into it. And it's precisely in that abyss, in that inner chaos most people avoid, that he found the source of true strength. For Nietzsche, it's not in peace, stability, or order that a person transforms. It's in pain, it's in the fall, it's in chaos. He wrote, "You need to have chaos inside you to give birth to a dancing star." That's not just a poetic line, it's a psychological diagnosis. It means that if you want to build an unshakable mind, you have to let go of the childish idea that it happens through comfort, cheap motivation, or positive affirmations. No, true strength is born when you face suffering without running, when you stop asking for life to be easier and start wishing to be stronger. Think about the times you grew the most. Was it when everything was easy? Or was it when you were shattered, lost, directionless, forced to rebuild yourself with your own hands? Nietzsche believed suffering wasn't some mistake in existence, but its main driving force. He didn't romanticize pain. He treated it as a tool. If you can change your relationship with pain, failure, and loneliness, you begin to shape something rare, an indomitable spirit. And it's exactly there that you start to disturb the world. Because while most people run from chaos, you'll learn to walk inside it. While others beg for normality, you'll create greatness. But this transformation requires a brutal break with everything you've been taught about strength. Being strong is not about smiling all the time. It's not about fake emotional control. Being strong is enduring the unbearable and coming out even more dangerous on the other side. Yet Nietzsche also knew chaos alone isn't enough. It can destroy you if you don't have an inner anchor. That's why in his philosophy, the decisive moment comes when he declares God is dead and puts the full weight of existential responsibility on you. Because when there's no longer a sky to look up to, it's within you that the universe must be born. This is where the real construction of a powerful mind begins. Most people collapse when they realize they're alone in the face of chaos. No manual, no guarantees, no one to blame. But those who face it without crumbling begin to forge an unshakable consciousness. With the death of God, Nietzsche pushes you into the abyss of radical freedom. You shouldn't follow commandments. You must create values. You shouldn't obey. You must surpass yourself. This is the birth of brutal autonomy. And with it comes the weight. Everything now depends on you. There's no absolution, no salvation. Either you build yourself or you sink. Here's the secret. The freedom that scares you is also the greatest source of power you'll ever have. When you realize no one is coming to save you, something inside you wakes up. A fire that pushes you to rise even while bleeding. It forces you to think for yourself, feel for yourself, act not because someone said it's right, but because you decided it is. It's in this rupture with existential crutches that Nietzsche sets the ground for something greater, the emergence of a new way of being, a type of person who doesn't live by the rules of the herd, who doesn't need approval or permission, who creates their own morality, surpasses their limits, and lives as a creator. Someone who frightens the weak because they force others to see themselves as they truly are. This being has a name. Nietzsche called it the Übermensch, the overman. If you want to build a mind so strong no one can break it, you need to understand how to become this figure who lives above conventions, guided only by their own will to power. Nietzsche didn't believe in slow, passive evolution of humanity. He believed in rupture, in radical transformation, in creative destruction. That's why he conceived the idea of the Übermensch. It's not about a superhero, not someone with mystical powers. The Übermensch is someone who has overcome everything that binds the ordinary person. Guilt, obedience, herd morality, the craving for acceptance. The Übermensch doesn't try to be accepted. They don't ask permission to exist. They create their own internal laws and live by them, even if it puts them against the whole world. That's exactly why their mind becomes unbreakable. It's not built on others' expectations. It doesn't need external approval to validate itself. It's self-sufficient. It feeds on its own will to power, the deep impulse to shape reality in its own image. This is the central point. The Übermensch doesn't adapt to the world. They impose meaning on the world. They don't seek comfort. They seek greatness. They don't ask, is this allowed? They ask, is this worthy of me? This shift in perspective changes everything, because when you start to see yourself as a creator, not a servant, the way you think, act, and feel transforms completely. But here's the problem. Becoming this kind of person requires sacrifice. You'll have to kill parts of yourself that still beg for approval. You'll have to face the pain of not belonging. You'll have to bear the weight of building your identity from scratch, without guarantees, without applause. Most people can't handle it. They give up before they start. They run back to the safety of ready-made beliefs, dogmas, and rules someone else wrote. The path to the Übermensch is lonely, and Nietzsche knew this. He lived on the margins, misunderstood, called mad, isolated from the world he was trying to free. But it was in that isolation he found freedom. This is what you need to understand. The stronger your mind becomes, the further you drift from the masses. The higher you rise, the more you disturb. Building the Übermensch is the most brutal and transformative process anyone can face because it requires destroying everything that isn't yours, everything imposed on you by a sick culture, by a society that rewards obedience and punishes authenticity. Only after destroying can you begin to build, and that construction doesn't happen in the crowd. It happens in silence, in withdrawal, in the deep solitude that separates the strong from the weak. That pain is necessary because real growth needs space. You can't grow while tied to other people's expectations. Most live inside an invisible herd where every thought is policed, every action measured by others' reactions. You've gotten used to walking with the group, thinking like the group, feeling secure because there are people around you. But Nietzsche proposes the opposite. He tears you from that comfort and throws you into the desert. In that desert, there's no applause, no praise, no guide. There's only you, your doubts, your traumas, your fears, your urge to give up. And that's where the real test begins. Most people run back. They hide behind masks. They pretend they don't feel, don't think, don't see. But if you truly want to become unbreakable, you must stay. You must endure the silence that reveals who you really are. Nietzsche said, "The individual must always struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try, you'll often feel lonely and sometimes scared, but no price is too high to pay for possessing yourself." That's the essence, possession of yourself, the rarest and most powerful achievement, because when you truly possess yourself, no one else can control you, no one else dictates your worth, no one else can break you. But this possession comes with loneliness. You will lose people, you will be misunderstood, you will hear you're arrogant, strange, distant. They'll try to pull you back into the mold. They'll call you crazy, cold, insensitive. But that's the price of not being domesticated, the price of not needing applause, the price of not living as a mirror for others' needs. Here's the truth. If you can't stand loneliness, you're not ready for freedom. All real freedom comes with abandonment of emotional crutches, comfortable illusions, utilitarian friendships. That's why Nietzsche saw solitude as a privilege, a battlefield where the true self finally has space to emerge. But this free mind doesn't just walk alone. It starts to see what others can't. And with that comes another effect, confrontation with mediocrity. Because when you start to become strong, mediocrity feels it and reacts. The danger of collective mediocrity is real. The world doesn't pursue sameness, it pursues those who stand out. Nietzsche didn't fear tyrants or obvious oppressors. He feared the subtle, corrosive power of collective mediocrity, that invisible system keeping everyone leveled down, punishing those who think differently, rewarding obedience, disguising cowardice as virtue. True tyranny doesn't always come from above. It comes from the sides. It comes from the crowd demanding you stay small so they don't have to grow. That's what happens when you stand out. When your mind sharpens, your spirit strengthens, your presence becomes uncomfortable, you disturb people. Not because you're wrong, but because you're rare. You're breaking the mold. Society hates mold breakers. Collective mediocrity can't stand individual brilliance because it reveals the dimness of ordinary life. Nietzsche called this slave morality, a code built by those who couldn't reach greatness. They flipped values. Strength became arrogance. Ambition became selfishness. Independence became coldness. They built a system that protects the weak and condemns the strong, not out of compassion but out of resentment. The weak don't want to be saved. They want the strong destroyed. That's why, when you free yourself, they attack. Sometimes directly, sometimes subtly, with looks, silence, irony. The message is clear: go back to the group. You're making us feel small, and you are, just by being yourself. Nietzsche understood most people live paralyzed by conformity, shaped by fear, guilt, obedience. Anyone who questions it is a threat. Mediocrity doesn't attack with force. It attacks with numbers, consensus, repetition. It makes you doubt yourself. It makes you think you're wrong for not fitting in. It uses shame and exclusion to lower your head. This is where many give up. They can't handle being the strange one, the difficult one, the so-called arrogant one. But Nietzsche would call you something else, necessary. While the world turns on recycled ideas and easy truths, it's the strong individual who brings the discomfort needed for something new to be born. Your difference is the spark of transformation, and also the target of resistance. Being strong, thinking freely, living autonomously, all of this is an act of war against collective mediocrity. And like any war, it requires preparation. It requires weapons, not physical but mental. There's a high cost to developing a mind so strong it frightens others. But there's also a reward no one can take away. If you've made it this far, you're already different. Most people would have turned off at the first challenge. They'd have run from the first discomfort. They'd have left once they realized this isn't content meant to stroke their ego. This is a call to action, a call for those ready to let go of illusions and face reality with open eyes. Building a mind so strong it's feared isn't just a choice, it's a renunciation. You'll lose friendships built on superficiality. You'll lose opportunities that require submission. You'll lose the ability to be content with little, but in return you gain something priceless: integrity, clarity, presence. You'll notice most people live half asleep, and your lucidity will scare them. Your firmness will make them tremble. Your absence will be louder than many people's presence. This strength doesn't come from outside. It's not taught in self-help books. It's not earned with ready-made phrases or empty affirmations. It's carved out from deep within, in the silence of hard nights, in choices no one sees. It's the result of an internal war between who you were and who you're becoming. And this war never really ends. The truly strong aren't those who have won. They're the ones who keep fighting even when they could stop. Nietzsche didn't want to create followers. He wanted to provoke internal earthquakes. He wanted you to stop crawling for approval, to stop begging for meaning, to stop searching in ready-made systems for what can only be built with your own blood, sweat, and awareness. He wanted you to become dangerous, not violent but rare. So rare that your existence forces others to look at themselves and confront what they've been avoiding. Now I'm asking you to do something to make this process real. Write in the comments a truth you're tired of hiding, an opinion you're scared to say, a thought that makes you feel isolated but shows who you truly are. This is part of the journey, claiming your voice, showing your presence, declaring you will no longer bend. If this video stirred something in you, don't stop here. The next video is just as important, maybe even more. It continues this journey. And if you've made it this far, you know you're not here out of curiosity. You're here because something inside you has already begun to change. So keep going. You're not behind, you're ahead. And while that may be frightening, it's also freeing.